Well, the history of urban ventures really is tied into the history of the civil rights, and it goes back to 1962, 63 with John Perkins in Mendenhall, Mississippi. And John had a desire to impact poor communities, primarily in the South back then. And out of his work developed 3 R's, which are the 3 R's that we've incorporated in our work as well. So the first one being redistribution. And really what we need when working with the poor is to see resources, talents, gifts, not just a redistribution of money, but really of the things that people need to survive, the things that people need to be in an even playing field. The second R was reconciliation. And it's one thing to have a reconciled relationship with God, but that has got to lead, in order for it to be authentic, to a reconciled relationship between blacks and whites, between rich and poor, between everybody. If it's not, then the reconciliation with God doesn't mean anything. So that was the second R. The third R is relocation. And that is, if you really want to minister to people, you got to get close. You can't do it from afar. You've got to get into their world and feel their pain and hear things you might not want to hear and feel things you might not want to feel. But really, it's the basis of relocation is all about relationships. It's relationships that change lives, not programs. Programs don't have that kind of transformative power. So if you take redistribution, reconciliation, and relocation together, for me, my understanding of that would lead to a form of justice. And so we've always been strongly advocating what I would call biblical justice versus charity. I think a lot of us get used to giving things away, doing a winter coat drive, doing a fall backpack drive, and we think that that's going to solve a problem, but it doesn't. You know, people need that, but it's really much deeper than that. So that's really the foundation of Urban Ventures and why we started here 20 years ago on Crack Avenue, which it was known as. Every single building in a 3 square block area was either a pornography place. It was a tremendous amount of pornography back then, or it was a crack house. It was a pawn shop, or it was vacant. So that's what we moved into 20 years ago. Took over the old Happy's Potato Chip Factory, and we had 2 programs. We worked with youth, primarily in athletics, and we did relief work in terms of food and clothing and emergency assistance and those kinds of things. So that was our beginning. And I think one of the interesting things that developed in those early days was a theory of change. Really, what are the elements that go into a person's life that gets them to make steps towards change, which has really become the basis of our community development here at Urban Ventures. So our theory of change is we developed 5 H's. So you got 3 R's and I got 5 H's. The first one being head. So we want to see every single kid that we work with graduate from high school because we have such a dismal graduation rate of 33%. We want to see their heart change. It's the second H. So there's got to be a moral compass. There's got to be spiritual transformation. There's got to be something in that kid's life that awakens their conscience. The third one is hurt. It's great to get a kid to graduate from high school. It's great to see stuff happen in their lives spiritually, but you also have to deal with the hurt. That can side rail everything. And there's a lot of hurt that kids carry around. So we have to address that. If not, they'll get stuck and they won't move on. The fourth one is hands. We want kids to give back. We have families here, kids here that are 4th and 5th generation being subsidized. So if you think about that, 4 or 5 generations of being subsidized, of not giving back, we know that just because a kid might be struggling financially does not excuse them to give back themselves. There's something of dignity and something of restoration in their own lives to be a part of the solution and not a part of the problem. And so you take all of those H's and it leads to what we call hope. And that's kind of like the bottom line of what we want to see instilled back into a kid's life. A kid that can move forward with a hopeful future. So you as a volunteer, so volunteers are incredibly important in the work we do, but here's something I really want to stress to people who volunteer, and that is transformation cuts both ways. The people that you're going to be impacting, we hope your work will be a part of their transformation, but you will experience transformation as well. You will be thinking differently, hopefully, about racism, about justice, about poverty, about all the issues that people struggle with. So everybody gets transformed in this relationship, you and the people that you're serving.